So we have a new award, the Clarence Award, or the Clarence Darrow Award, a very special one. It's inaugurated by the Freedom from Religion Foundation today. We call it the Clarence Award, but it's really formally the Clarence Darrow Award. And we're viewing it as an all-purpose award to recognize those who work to support the teaching of evolution and science. Those who are civil libertarians and or those who are strong freethinkers, as Clarence Darrow was. We have a very special recipient, uniquely deserving of this premier award, who will be introduced by a very special member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Without Margaret Downey's activism and support, in fact, we would never have met our honoree tonight. Margaret Downey is a longtime state representative of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. She's a champion of the equal treatment of non-religious boys in the Boy Scouts. She's a Thomas Paine aficionado, and she's an educator and founder of the Free Thought Society based in Philadelphia. So please welcome Margaret Downey, who will bestow the award tonight.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Dan and Annie Laurie, thank you for giving me this esteemed honor in introducing John de Lancie. John is an actor, director, and producer, and many of you in this audience know him best with his portrayal of Q in the television series Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now, if you did know that character well, you're going to laugh when I say, oh God, I loved John de Lancie in that role. John has appeared in numerous television shows apart from Star Trek, including The Librarians, Torchwood, Breaking Bad, West Wing, just to name a few, and John's many film credits are vast. Some of the films you probably have enjoyed are The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, The Fisher King, The Onion Field, Taking Care of Business, Fearless, The Big Time, and Pathology. He has been a member of the American Shakespeare Company, the Seattle Repertory Company, the South Coast Repertory, the Mart Taper Forum, Old Globe, and most recently, the Freedom from Religion Foundation's Afterlife membership. Now, in the world of music, John has performed with most of the major symphony orchestras in America, Canada, and Australia. John has directed a number of operas, including Puccini's Tosca, and he was the host of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Symphonies for Youth. He was as well a writer and director of First Nights, which is a concert series at Disney Hall. John is the co-owner of Alien Voices. The other owner was Leonard Nimoy. Now, Alien Voices is not affiliated with the SETI search for extraterrestrial intelligence, even though the name sounds like it might be a very similar project. No, Alien Voices is a production company devoted to the dramatization of classic science fiction. But John has an interest in real life and the many social concerns that confront us. Combining his talents with an interest in evolution and science, John is embarking on a project to convey Darwin's theory of evolution to children and many other scientific themes through a new cartoon endeavor. Now, you watch for that in the near future, folks. It's going to be very exciting. John's interest in science and the law has him examining the 2005 Kitzmiller versus Dover School District trial. Now, you may see a dramatization of the portrayal of the characters soon, thanks to John's talents as a writer, director, actor, and producer. Now, you just heard an exclusive announcement, and now I put a little pressure on John to create something sooner rather than later. But tonight, John is the very first recipient of the Clarence Darrow Award. And it is fitting that it's being awarded to him because in 2005, John actually portrayed Clarence Darrow in a stage production entitled The Great Tennessee Monkey Trial. John's dear friend, Ed Asner, played William Jennings Bryan. So you can imagine what a wonderful production that must have been. John lent his celebrity and memorial remarks to the dedication of the Freedom from Religion Foundation's commissioned statue of Clarence Darrow in Dayton, Tennessee in July 2017. The Ray County Courthouse statue was created by sculptor Zenos Frudakis, who is in the audience tonight. Zenos, would you please come join me on stage? We will never forget that unveiling. There was John, the tallest man in the gathering, holding my parasol, attempting to push back the black veil that covered the statue as it got stuck on the authentically produced whisk of hair on the top of Darrow's head. Now, this moment, by the way, was captured by a photograph about the event, and this photo appeared in the New York Times. That little bit of hair really did give us a lot of trouble at the unveiling. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation's videographer, Bruce Johnson, also captured the scene in this really short video.
While the drape hit some snags while being removed, once it came off, the assembled crowd all cheered the likeness of the great lawyer, Clarence Darrow, who will share the lawn of the Ray County Courthouse with William Jennings Bryan for decades to come.
Well, we got through that little drama thanks to John's height and perseverance. Now we are pleased that John is here to accept an award from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And Zenos created a small version of the Darrow statue, which has been turned into an award. So now please welcome John de Lancie as the first recipient of the Clarence Darrow Award.
This is wonderful. Thank you. I'm really very touched. We had a wonderful time in Dayton, Tennessee. I had been on tour with the show for a couple of years. We did it once, for a month at a time for a couple of years, 2-3 years, I think. And we always talked about Dayton, Tennessee, but we never went there. We wanted to get out of it alive, you know. And so it was really terrific, and this is sensational, and the big statue is extraordinary. So thank you so much. I have a few remarks that I've written that I'd like to share with you. May I have? I'm a sailor, by the way. I sail a lot, long trips. And I've given some speeches before where there's not any light on the podium, so I actually came prepared. Now, I can't really do it this way, but you know what? I think I'm going to be okay here. Yeah. Anybody want to hold this light for me? It's okay. For those of you who don't know your Catholic saints, and I have a feeling this is a crowd who probably doesn't, Saint Genesius is the patron saint of actors. He's also the patron saint of whores, thieves, epileptics, and clowns. I've known this tidbit for years and counted myself blessed to be included. Recently, however, I discovered to my horror that Saint Genesius also represents lawyers. Actors, clowns, stenographers, and lawyers. I've petitioned the Vatican to get the lawyers thrown out. They could easily be transferred to St. Felix, who handles spiders. He should take care of them. Or St. Dominic of Celios, who handles rabid dogs. It's a simple request, but I'm still waiting. The reason I'm eager for this transfer stems from an unfortunate conversation I had a few months ago with a lawyer who said to me, "If I ever got you on the witness stand, I could easily destroy your credibility with the jury simply because actors are, by their very nature, professional liars." What a staggering thing to say. And something that I took deeply to heart, given that we are well into the 23rd month of our great national paroxysm of lying. Actors are a lot of things, but lying is the antithesis of what we do professionally. The craft of acting has nothing to do with deception. We are not in search of lies, quite the contrary. Just as great plays reveal profound truths, acting at its best strives to hold those truths as a mirror up to nature. That is what makes great acting so compelling. That is what we strive to achieve. Actors who conceal the truth ring false. And we dismiss their performance as being untruthful, unwatchable. There's nothing attractive to an audience about lying. Lying sullies both the liar and the one being lied to. Spend 5 minutes watching Sarah Huckabee Sanders and tell me if her performance doesn't make you cringe and want to turn away. Acting is truth-telling, and the audience knows it when they see it. If my lawyer friend had started the conversation like this, "You've played a lot of liars in your career. Have you learned anything?" I would have replied, "Absolutely. I have learned the value of telling the truth." During the rehearsal of a play, the actor forms an intimate relationship with the truth. The process is not just about learning your lines and avoiding the furniture. It is a period of intense examination of the character as well as the actor who is playing the character. To do it properly, you have to be honest with yourself and vulnerable to what you may uncover. You have to be brave to enter the world of what if. What if I were handicapped? What if I only had a week to live? What if I were a killer? A while back, I played the character of Hans Biebau. Biebau was the chief Nazi administrator for the ghetto of Lodz. With the help of Mordecai Rumkowski, the Jewish mayor of the ghetto, Biebau transformed Lodz into a major manufacturing center for the German army. Both men worked feverishly to keep the ghetto producing. Rumkowski's goal was to save his people, Bebau's to become the top war producer. Into this symbiotic relationship came the final solution, the central conflict of the play. The crushing inevitability of the final solution made for a brutal dialogue as the two men negotiated the quotas for the trains, thereby sealing the fate of thousands. The infamous speech, "Mothers and fathers, give me your children under 10, was delivered in the ghetto of Lodz. At the start of rehearsals, I was having great difficulty finding the character. He felt so distant. He was a monster, yet he didn't think of himself as a monster. How do I play that in such a way that the audience might see a part of themselves in Bebau? First, I had to find a part of Bebau in me. My first clue came as I was standing in line to buy a soda. A man in front of me pulled out some money, and a $5 bill fell to the floor. Automatically, I reached down, picked it up, and gave it to him. But as I walked back to rehearsals, I realized I could have made another choice. I could have simply stepped forward and covered the $5 bill with my foot, and it would have been mine. Nothing grand, just a momentary lapse known only to me, a little secret, easily rationalized, no big deal. I realized then that my mistake had been in trying to swallow Bebau whole when he was his most repulsive, when he was willing to do anything or say anything to get the sick and elderly on the train, and then a few weeks later, the children on the train, and finally, on the last train, Rumkowski himself, who, when he stepped onto the platform in Auschwitz, was bludgeoned to death by the parents of the children he had sent before. In trying to portray the enormity of Bebau's crime, I had assumed that his life journey started with the unimaginable, when actually it started years before with perhaps something as simple as stepping forward to conceal a $5 bill. One dishonest step repeated 10,000 times. By the time I met Bebau, morality had nothing to do with it. That struggle had ceased in him years earlier. His had been a long journey to self-entrapment, a journey that begins with lying to others and ends with lying to yourself. That was the key to my performance, and a life lesson for me as well. How easy those first steps towards self-deception, and how frightening the outcome. And so every night in the what-if world of a ghetto, I watched, without guilt or remorse, as babies were snatched from their mother's arms and fathers shot. I ordered the deportation of children with no shame, and the audience wept. A year ago in Washington, D.C., I played Donald Trump. Or to be exact, Trump 2.0. Articulate, charismatic, corrupt. Which is why I can stand before you tonight and tell you that you are witnessing the greatest speech, the most amazing dinner speech ever delivered in the history of mankind. And that includes the Sermon on the Mount, which a lot of people are saying took place in Utah. I don't know, but a lot of people are saying it. I thought long and hard about playing that character. Exercising the negative parts of oneself takes its toll. But in the end, I accepted the role and went in search of the Trump in me. I spent the next 4 months in the world of lying, bullying, and gaslighting. And you know what? In a perverse way, it's kind of fun. Trump is not that complicated. He doesn't struggle with great philosophical or moral issues. In the parlance of a type of theater called commedia dell'arte, Trump is pantalone, ego-driven, greedy. His motivation is winning. Grab the last cookie on the plate. Push to the head of the line. Get through the door first. I win, you lose. And since nothing really matters to him except his own skin, he is completely unencumbered by the truth. He is shameless. Once I got on that wavelength, it was disturbingly easy. Every night I walked out on stage and poured a bucket of lies into a pool of clear water, and the tendrils reached out and permeated everything until the audience couldn't see the lies anymore because they were drowning in them. And if you're drowning, I'm winning. One of the fascinating aspects of acting is that while your mind knows you are pretending, your body doesn't. As I attacked and demeaned and scored even the most insignificant of wins, my body was experiencing it for real. The adrenaline and the cortisol were flowing. It was exciting. It was predatory. My fellow actors, however, were going through very different emotions. As far as they were concerned, they were being battered, with their sunken chests, rounded shoulders, staring at the ground, waiting for the abuse to pass them by. And what did I learn? If you allow yourself to be shameless, truly shameless, everything is easy. The rage, the lack of empathy, the lying, the entitlement, the denials, the grandiosity, exhilarating. Being shameless is powerful. It took a long, slow walk back to my apartment every night to shake it off. Only when I got past the Chick-fil-A on 14th Street, one of Trump's favorite eateries, that I start to relax. So my dear lawyer friend, no, actors are not professional liars. But when we play them, we strive to portray them truthfully and insightfully, so that you might see yourself, so that we all might see ourselves. And just to be clear, actors ask permission. Both the audience and the actor enter the imaginary world together, where everyone is aware that what is happening on stage or on the screen is only real in the emotions it evokes. Real liars don't ask permission. And today you can find them in the tens of thousands in the public square, doing untold damage to a population so turned upside down by 22 years of Fox News, social media, and a president who lies so shamelessly that many of us are drowning. We are entering the realm of the unimaginable. Up until now, I have been describing characters in the extreme. Murderous, ruthless, but there was a world of dishonesty cloaked in righteousness that is just as perverse and just as dangerous. 3 years ago, if the Christian fundamentalists of America had been told they'd be voting en masse for a pathological liar, a serial philanderer, a man whose very name, when placed in the same sentence with the phrase Christian values, elicits laughter, they would have been insulted. As arbiters of all things moral and ethical, they would have been shot. But that was then, and this is now. And just like Bebow, when you're told the solution comes from on high, you don't want to get too caught up in the moral details. They just get in the way, especially if you've been softened up since birth, not to question, not to be curious, to simply believe. A few years ago, I toured the country performing the Scopes Monkey trial. This time I played the good guy, Clarence Darrow. Many of our performances were in the Bible Belt, and at the end of every show there was a question and answer period. What an eye-opener. I began to realize I had entered the world of absolutes with no give and take and no room for doubt. A politicized world where the biblical stories were familiar, but the intentions behind their telling were very different, and where the collective responses were always the same. If science has produced a truth or a fact not contained in the Bible, then destroy science and keep the Bible. No matter where we performed, that was the mantra. On a personal note, I want to make clear that I think many of the tenets of religion are beneficial, especially when they stress charity, tolerance, forgiveness, and love. But when one's religious beliefs leave the privacy of the home and are brought in the public square, I stand as a sentinel, as do many of you, to keep the public square free of ignorance, superstition, and bigotry. In the words of Dudley Malone, defense counsel with Clarence Darrow, keep your Bible. Keep it as your consolation. Keep it as your guide, but keep it where it belongs, in the world of your conscience, in the world of theology. During these last few months, I have been working as a writer with the transcripts of the Dover Intelligent Design trial, a trial that took place in 2005 in Dover, Pennsylvania. Fundamentalist Christians took over the school board and within weeks injected their religious beliefs into the teaching of science in their public school. Some of the parents pushed back and sued the school board. It was the Scopes monkey trial all over again, but this time with a twist. The defendants felt emboldened and justified in their actions. Moments after taking the stand, their religious veneer, their piety fell to the wayside. Moments after swearing to their God that they would tell the truth, they lied with abandon. They were shameless. Their lying was so egregious that at one point the judge said, "This is a federal courtroom. If you continue, I'm going to charge you with perjury." Aided by their fundamentalist counsel, the Dover defendants charted a zigzag course of deception and dishonesty. Thankfully, the judge saw through it and identified intelligent design for the sham that it is, creationism, not science. And as for the defendants, he charged some of them with contempt. As you might expect, the defendants all left the courthouse feeling very misunderstood, very ill-used. They proclaimed themselves victims of an intolerant secular world. They didn't feel shame or embarrassment by their behavior. They were lying for Jesus. And they would do it again. They would say anything and do anything. I recognized the type. I've often wondered what was their first step, their $5 bill. For many of them, I think it starts early and it's very carefully orchestrated. I think it starts by telling the innocent kid, the curious kid who just wants to know what's real, something as simple as, yes, he did. Jonah lived in a whale. He did. It's true. For 3 days, he lived in a whale. It's true. In Kentucky, that response is certainly easier than explaining what an allegory is to an 8-year-old. But it has its risks. In Kentucky, I watched a Ken Ham wannabe preach shamelessly to his target audience of children under 10. He was working really hard that morning, hand puppets and lollipops, and the parents loved it. I felt sorry for the kids. Their first steps were being made for them. the seeds of ignorance, prejudice, and superstition were being planted. A few days later at the University of Nebraska, I stood in a classroom of 100 college kids as 80 of them raised their hands to bear witness that they believed the earth was created on October 23rd, 4004 BC at 10 o'clock in the morning. How do you know that? I asked. Well, they didn't exactly. Something about revealed truth and fossils and, I don't know, living in a whale. But mostly they didn't know, nor did they care to know. I'm told that having faith is believing without proof, without reason. I think you can have faith and keep your reason. I'll go a step further. You must keep your reason, otherwise you will lose your soul to liars, manipulators, cheats, and demagogues. I'm not a liar, but I play them. And I don't think of gullible as charming or quaint. I see it for what it is, a target of opportunity. And so do a lot of others who troll our political landscape. A young lady in West Virginia once told me that God was her bus driver. What does that mean? I asked. It means I can sit at the back of my bus and party hardy because God is driving my bus. I have a feeling that tonight, on the eve of one of the most important elections of our lifetime, unbeknownst to her, a lot of people are driving her bus. And while our young lady has not been paying attention to where she's going for a very long time, the micro lies have been piling up, and for her, tonight they are indistinguishable from the big lies. I fear that tonight she is so ill-prepared to differentiate fact from fiction, truth from lies, that it's but a few short steps to believing that separating children from their parents keeps us safe, that Central American mothers pushing strollers down a hot Mexican highway are a threat to our country, that freedom of religion somehow means you can discriminate against those who don't share your beliefs, that telling the truth makes you an enemy of the people, and that lying can't be all that bad if your cause is good. When so many are so willing to forsake reason in favor of faith, is it any wonder that our leaders embrace the unreasonable, the unimaginable? That's why educating children to be curious is so important. Why debunking the notion that morality is derived from a single book is so important. Why speaking up when others remain silent is so important. As George Orwell said, during times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's why organizations like Freedom from Religion are so important, because the greatest, most fundamental service we can do in this world is to keep truth alive. Thanks.